Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Platinum Review. This time on the chopping block, we got Shadow of Mordor, the first one, which is the Shadow one, not Middle Earth Shadow of War or War or something like that. Anyway, what takes you back to your childhood more than Lord of the Rings? I mean, this one's just a classic. I thought maybe playing this would kind of take. I remember watching the Lord of the Rings films as a child. I loved them. So I was like, let's play a Lord of the Rings game. I know there's so many, between like PlayStation and Xbox One, Xbox, the original one, I should say, not the new one. But, if you think you're gonna get into this to watch new characters, you're wrong. The only character that's actually from the films in this is Gollum. That's it. If you thought you were gonna see Gandalf the White walking through here, or Saruman, no. No, thank you. You only have Sauron and Gollum in this one, but you know what? Gollum makes a pretty good appearance, and this game does have some characters that, leave an impression and are, maybe from some other sort of timeline. I'm not really sure. I never read the books. I'm not really sure of Middle-earth lore other than Lord of the Rings and the movies. But in this one, you deal with a man named Talion and the ghost of Celebrimbor. And the general story here, spoiler alert, but Talion's story is that he wants revenge for his family. Celebrimbor's story is that he wants revenge for Sauron because Sauron manipulated him into making the One Ring for Sauron and using it for bad and stuff. So Talion ends up getting murdered, and then Celebrimbor kind of hops into his body, and that's kind of where your story starts. And as you go, you use Celebrimbor's magic powers coupled with Talion's sword abilities, and you get like a nice flow of Assassin's Creed combat with Arkham Batman Asylum, or those kind of Batman games with you having the parries and stuff like that, which I guess is like Assassin's Creed anyway, because they had that in the old Assassin's Creed where you could just parry everything and there were only a few enemies. So that's kind of what this is too, where you have a similar enemy system. Segueing on here, we'll talk about the achievements, the gameplay, and I'll give you my final thoughts. I don't think this game is hard. I think it'll be a nice one to platinum. They had a couple achievements, and I'll talk about them later, that were a little bit harder to get for me, or that I had maybe a little more stress while I was trying to get them, but I actually got both of them first try. Alright, so gameplay. This game's been out for 10 years, almost. 8 years. This game has a sequel. I mean, I'm a little late to the platinum party here, guys, but I feel like most people have at least seen or heard of this game. Like I touched on earlier, the gameplay is pretty similar to Batman or Assassin's Creed. You attack somebody, and if you get crowded, then they come at you one or two at a time. And in this game, you can parry two enemies at once. That's, an essential piece of combat is the parrying system. And then, you reciprocate on your attacks. You then have to fight the war chiefs and the captains, and there's a nemesis system. So when orcs kill you, I should say, then they get promoted, and then they get a power level. And when you kill orcs that are promoted, and war chiefs and captains and such, then you get relics that you can put on your weapons. And that's the upgrade system for your weapons. And then you have an upgrade system where you earn XP, like a leveling system, and then, you unlock a lot of abilities through the story. So sometimes you get you don't usually get level locked, but, you level up a few times, and then you have to reallocate points somewhere else, not where you want to. Branding, as you see in trailers and whatnot for this game, where you brand orcs and they become your allies, that system doesn't come into until later in the game, but, stories and the DLCs play out a little bit differently. You still have the branding ability, but it gets changed. Celebrimbor plays different than Talion, and Talion plays a little different in his DLC versus, the base game. Now, the base game is where you're going to be spending most of the time, because the DLCs aren't very long, maybe an hour, or they're a few hours, depending on how long you do. And then there's another game mode where it's kind of more of the arcadey sense. where you're fighting a clock and you get a score and you're ranked up against other players on sort of a leaderboard. But what I'd like to go back to and talk about is the DLC. So in the DLC, you play as Celebrimbor. That's the One Ring. And Celebrimbor plays a little bit differently in that DLC because of how his character works. You're not playing as Talion anymore. You're playing as the elf himself, the elf on the shelf, with the One Ring. So this is after Celebrimbor has forged the One Ring for Sauron, and somehow Celebrimbor actually steals the ring back from Sauron. So you get to play with the ring, which it's pretty cool. I just don't think the ring is as cool as it was in the movies and stuff like that, where Sauron was kind of almost teleporting and he goes invisible and stuff like that. You don't really get those kinds of abilities. What is really nice about the ring in Celebrimbor's DLC is that when you activate it, all captains lose their strengths. So if they were invulnerable, if they were combat masters and they were invulnerable to executions in fights, then they're no longer invulnerable to those executions. I'm sorry. So you can sit there and just execute them over and over again, as I actually do in one of the clips, and so that's kind of how you know, I feel like it's a very cheap way of playing the game, but it's that, or you're doing the same tech over and over on them, where you stun them, hop over them, and then you just get the 5 slashes and do an execution move on them. But you're speeding up that process, because sometimes when they're combat masters, you can't execute them, so you have to sit there and do the 5 sword swings over and over again. And some of these bosses are a little tanky. And then there's Talion's DLC, where he plays with Tauren, which is another one of the characters in this, you know, where Tauren is the hunter and Talion is the trainer, I guess. You know, Tauren takes Talion under his wing, and he shows them all these cool new monsters, and he shows off a few new ones that weren't in the base game, but really all they are is, like, reskinned with different moves. So you have the Graug. Now you have the Wretched Graug, and instead the Graug doesn't swing, he vomits. Which isn't really that unique. I think that they really could have done more with the DLCs and stuff. I think they could have expanded more on the DLCs, where in Talion's they added a few more monsters with unique skins, unique abilities. Instead, you get a Karagath, which is a Karagor that's reskinned that now can do stealth. You get to brand ghouls and ghoul matrons, which is pretty cool. Which, that was unique to the DLC. It changes some of the branding systems. And that goes with Celebrimbor as well, where he can do shadow branding with his bow. And he can do a group brand where you hit so many times, and instead of doing an execution on a 5 combo, you get the option to do a Wraith Stun, where you do a big AoE. And the AoE actually will brand characters, which is cool, but it's inconsistent. So sometimes you're spamming it a lot, and it's not really working. But any ability like executions, wraith stuns, stuff like that, you can just spam when you use the One Ring, which is neat. So Celebrimbor's DLC is a little cooler than Talion's. Talion's was a little more content. Celebrimbor's is also cool because you get a little more backstory on Celebrimbor. And I'm not sure if he's from a book or something like that I've never seen. So I really don't know anything about his character. And Talion, I'm not really sure if they just made him up for the game, but Talion's backstory is kind of bland. Celebrimbor is also kind of a bland character, with him just kind of being hellbent on revenge the whole time. But the extra content was nice to play through. The arcade mode, moving on to that, I do have a clip of... I actually don't think I have a clip of the arcade mode, but that's where I was actually having a little bit of tension in my game. I was kind of stressing whenever I was doing the arcade mode, because you're limited to a timer of 40 minutes in the one. You don't actually have to do all the trials, although I think there are like 6 or 7 without looking. You only have to do 2. You have to do the Trial of the Ring and Test of the Wild. I think Test of the Wild is 40 minutes and Trial of the Ring is 60. So 60 minutes you have a little bit of wiggle room, but 40 minutes is a little tight. You have to kill 20 captains, which is all the captains on the map, and you have to kill the 5 war chiefs. So you have to kill every orc that's in power in Test of the Wild. And in Trial of the Ring, you have to brand the 5 war chiefs. No, you have to kill the 5 war chiefs, kill 12 captains, and still brand 8 captains and 60 orcs, I think, is what it is. 60 or 50. Instead of really diving into that right now, though, I'm going to save that for the achievement section, so we'll just kind of roll into that now. Alright, guys, so talking into the achievements, segueing into the achievements, rather, I'm going to have them all kind of rolling on screen. I apologize for the blurry, maybe text quality there, but if you feel like you want to read one, just feel free to pause the video, and I'll sit here and kind of talk about the easier achievements, and then kind of segue into the harder ones, the ones that had a little more difficulty, that I, struggled a little bit more with. But on the easier side, you're going to have your ones that you kind of just mandatorily get by playing through the game from, 0 to 100, from playing for where Talion is executed to where he is the executor kind of thing. And in Celebrimbor and Talion, in the Wild campaign with Tauren, I should say. I'm trying to think of what the campaign is called. But anyway, the DLCs have their own set of achievements, and then the base game has its, obviously. In the base game, you have some collectibles and some missions and challenges that you have to go for. So you have the Athedan, which are like things on the walls. You have to go and collect them. Then you have memories on objects. You have to collect those as well. So you'll actually get these just by playing through the game. You'll get these artifacts, and you have to look over them and find a memory on it. You don't have to listen to the memory, but at least play the memory so it counts as it was completed. Otherwise, you have to go back through, and there's really no way to keep track of which memories you have played versus the ones that you haven't. So I kind of wish it would have done something like that, because there is an achievement tied to listening to all the memories, and it was kind of... I mean, I was lucky. I had to go back through, and I only had to listen to one of them, and I just kind of guessed which one it was. But I hadn't played the game in a while, so it really was a guess, and if I hadn't have found it, I would have had to sit through the entire list and play all of them, and I thought you had to listen to them to completion, but you don't. So, that's on the easier side. You have survivalist challenges and hunting challenges, as well as outcast rescue missions. Anyway, so the survivalist challenges, you have to collect a bunch of plants. The hunting challenges, you have to kill specific monsters. Actually, if you do the hunting challenges, if you watch this before you beat the game, like I didn't do, then you can save yourself some hunting challenges, which I wish I would have done. Instead, I actually had to go out and try to find these monsters that were pretty rare. You have to find a Grog, which doesn't spawn very often, and you have to find a Primal Caragor, I think is what it is, for the higher-end challenges. There's also one for a Ghoul Matron, which I had to... that's another one. You're kind of farming. You have to sit there and teleport on these towers a bunch of times until the enemy just decides to spawn somewhere. That one was a little bit annoying. So if you watch this early, you can get these through campaigns if you fight the early hunting challenges before doing the level where you kill the Primal Caragor or the Growl. And then you actually don't have to farm these at all, and you can just continue playing the game. A lot of the other ones, though, you're kind of just doing in combat or without really even thinking about it. You're gonna kill 25 stealth kills with your Karagath. Maybe you're gonna brand 5 war chiefs. You're killing bosses, or maybe you're making Oryx flee using Morgai fly nests. Just kind of things that you're working through a little bit. You can farm them, absolutely. You could go out of your way and shoot 5 baits for Caragors, or you could kind of just do it as you're playing the game anyway, which you're probably going to do without even really paying attention. Some of these achievements you're going to just accidentally get, but some of them you're going to read, and you're going to really have to work on them. So this kind of pushes me into the harder achievements, the ones where I actually had to try to figure out what I was doing to get some of them. The Collector is not hard, but it takes a little bit of coordination, where you have to have a Ghoul Matron, a Wretched Grog, I'm sorry, it's a Spitter Ghoul, not a Ghoul Matron, but I think they're pretty similar, and a Karagath. You have to have them dominated at the same time in the Tauren DLC with Talion, where you can dominate ghouls and things of that nature. But that one takes a little bit of coordination where none of them accidentally kill each other, and you don't kill more than a few of them to dominate them, because the Spitter Ghoul you can only dominate after a kill streak, with the Karagath and the Wretched Graug being easier where you can just shadow mount them. Some of the harder achievements, Beyond Epic, Lord of the Ring, A Mighty Doom, and The Hunt is My Mistress, those ones, the Hunt is My Mistress and Lord of the Ring I kind of spoke about at the end when I was talking about gameplay, where those are the timed arcadey ones. Beyond Epic you're going to do in Test of the Ring as well, but I'll touch on that whenever I talk more about Mighty Doom. But in The Hunt is My Mistress, and Lord of the Ring, you are killing captains and branding captains, fighting war chiefs, and you're under a time limit. So in Mistress, you have to beat it in 40 minutes. Lord of the Ring, you have 60, so 60, not really that bad. Especially if you can do Mistress, you can do Ring. Absolutely no problem, because Mistress and Ring are very similar, but Ring, you have 20 more minutes. In Mistress, you only have 40. Ring, you have 60. So there's a little bit more wiggle room there. You have a lot more time. My strategy for that, actually, after reading online, because I'm, a casual pleb and I can't do any of these on my own, but the strategy that I read online for Mistress was to kill, First, you go around and gather intel about all the captains, as many as you can, and the war chiefs, so you know where they are on the map. And then, in Wilderness, in the Mistress one, the Graug spawns are set, so you can shoot Graug bait, and it summons a Wretched Graug, and Graugs can instantly kill captains by eating them. So all you have to do with it is walk around the map, you go clockwise, and you kill all the captains you can reach with the Graug, and then you dominate a war chief, and you use that war chief to go around and challenge the rest of the captains. And so after you do that, you push the captains in a position where you know where they're going to be, you don't have to chase them down, and they're not locked into a previous debate or something like that, like where they go into an ordeal with another captain, or they go into a dinner or something like that. And you also have the added benefit of having your own backup. Meaning, if they're too much to handle, well, your war chief is shooting at them too. Or your Uruks are coming out and are killing them as well. So you kind of have, it makes it a lot easier. The two achievements, the absolute hardest achievement, I think hands down anyone on the internet will agree with me, A Mighty Doom is the worst achievement in this game. So in A Mighty Doom, you have to get a level 25 rune in the base game. So the only way to get a level 25 rune in the base game is to get a captain to level 20, then he has to become a war chief, and that war chief normally gives him 2 levels, but if he's already level 20, he's just going above level 20. So level 20, then he becomes a war chief, that gets him to 22, then you have to know his weakness, you have to revenge kill, which means he has to be somebody that has killed you before, and then you can death threat, but I'll get into that in a second. But what you actually want to do to get that +5 is to exploit that weakness. So knowing it and exploiting it are 2 points, one in each category. But if you use the death threat mechanic, then you're basically rigging yourself up to fail, which I understand why a lot of people on the internet are now saying don't do that, because I've actually done it like once or twice when I was trying to get the level 25 rune, and I thought I was actually going to have to save scum, because getting that whole situation set up to get the war chief up to level 25 kind of requires some preparation. Like, you have to kill the bodyguards and then have it set up so he you know that person is going to be promoted, almost like he's going to be a war chief, but you can't brand them, because then you won't get the exploiting a weakness and knowing their weakness, because now they're under your rule. So that kind of, cheats the system there. You can't have them branded. You have to manipulate everything around them to get them to war chief. But the reason you don't want to use the death threat is because it's like shooting yourself in the foot here. If you use the death threat, yes, it gives them an extra point, but it also considerably increases the chance that killing that captain or war chief gives you a epic rune. And epic runes are not to be confused with basic runes. You need a basic level 25 rune. Epic runes don't have levels tied to them. So that's kind of why you can't use that. If you get an epic rune, they're unique, so you can only get so many of them. The flip side of that I actually read some guides for and stuff like that, is that if you farm enough of the epic runes, they can't drop anymore because you'll have all of them. Now, I don't think anyone wants to farm every epic rune in the game to get back to getting a basic rune from their war chiefs and stuff like that. In that case, then you could use the death threat mechanic, because there's no more epics. But I think that would just take really long. If you're on PC, you might be able to save scum this, like I said, where you just save right before you go and kill the captain, and then you kill the captain, and if it doesn't drop what you want, then just go back. A very similar achievement to this is going to be Beyond Epic. Beyond Epic is get a level 30 rune, so it's the same idea, same premise a Mighty Doom has, where you're just going to be farming for, but you're going to be doing the same thing, where they already are a war chief. You have to know their weakness, exploit it, and you have to get a revenge kill, so they have to have killed you once. But the nicer thing about Beyond Epic is that you're in a confined area. You're going to be doing Beyond Epic in the Trial of the Ring, so you're going to be playing as Celebrimbor, which already has the added advantage of the ring. You're going to press the ring and instantly execute this guy after you exploit his weakness, which happens to be Karagor's. So, you're going to be farming the same dude. It's always the same war chief that every guide pretty much recommends. I did it. I actually got it on my second try, doing Beyond Epic. A Mighty Doom, I think, took me about 3 to 4 tries, which I'm fortunate that it did, because I really didn't want to do that one anymore. But I think, hands down, Mighty Doom is much harder than Beyond Epic. I think that's the hardest achievement in the game. If there's one that you want to start trying to go for, or if there's one that you're really just going to have to kind of saddle up and stick to, one that you can't deviate from, you can't work on anything else while you're doing this, you have to really focus on this one and, manipulate the surrounding game to do this one. And it's still only a chance that you get a level 25 rune. I think Mighty Doom is going to be that achievement. It's like the make or break for some people's sanity, I think. But that's kind of the achievements of this game. Other than those, I don't really think anything is noteworthy. So, coming up to my final thoughts on this game, I think I'm glad it's over. I'm glad it's a platinum on the shelf, and that's where it can stay. Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor is a casual game. I put it down for a long time. I actually just came back maybe within the past couple months, and while recording this, it's been probably a week or two since I even finished the game, since I last even booted up. My total hour count for this game ended up coming out to be 41 hours on Steam. That was with my casual play in the past, and then my achievement hunting now. So, and that's all the DLCs and all the achievements. So I think the casual gamer can very easily beat this game. If you're watching the gameplay in the back, this is actually spoilers. It's the Sauron fight from the Ring DLC with Celebrimbor, and I think the Ring DLC, this fight in particular, is actually pretty difficult. I know I didn't highlight it in gameplay earlier, like when I was talking about the gameplay and whatnot earlier, but this fight, the elf just doesn't really have a whole lot of health, and you're put against a lot of enemies in like a 3-phase fight, and it's just, you're on this onslaught of enemies that just keep coming at you, and it's a little difficult, but I think the casual gamer is going to find a way to optimally kill the enemies in this game like everyone else has. You're kind of just stunning them, and then you slam them with executions, and then Talion gets an ability where he can do 2 on 1 combo, and it's just, you're going to find a way to optimally kill a lot of captains and war chiefs, and you're only going to have a little bit of difficulty with some of the ones that fall into the exception category of those rules that you're following to kill these guys. But, I'm glad to put this one on the shelf. I'm glad it's retired. I don't think I'm going to come back and play this one. I might go for the sequel eventually, but I think right now I'm just a little tired of Middle-earth and Gollum and all the LOTR people. So look forward to that video maybe in the future sometime. If you guys enjoy this video, please subscribe, like this video. Thanks for watching. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day.